Russia has deployed more coastal defense missiles near disputed islands north of Japan. Japanese officials reacted to this move and took a decision to call Russia a serious security concern of Japan. Russia deployed mobile coastal defense missile systems on a northern Kuril island, part of a strategically located chain of islands that stretch between Japan and the Russian Kamchatka Peninsula. The Russian ministry said that a military camp was set up on Paramushar with conditions allowing for year-round service, accommodation, recreation and food for personnel. Japan's Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno said that the government will closely monitor the Russian military activity, adding it has been intensifying in the Far East regions. He said, the Russian military is accelerating its activities in the Far East, including areas surrounding Japan, as it continues its invasion in Ukraine. In the latest update of the Japanese national security strategy, Japan's government has revealed the plan to brand Russia as a country of serious security concern. Responding to the same, Japanese officials stated that it is necessary to use the word threat and not concern when it comes to actions of the Russian Federation. A year ago, Russia deployed Bastion systems to Machua, an island in the central Kurils. Machua, a volcanic island nearly 7 miles long north of Japan's Hokkaido prefecture, is not one of 4 Russian-occupied islands in the group claimed by Japan. The Washington-based think tank Center for Strategic and International Studies said in a September 2022 report that overshadowed by the invasion of Ukraine, Moscow's militarization of the Kuril Islands has flown largely under the radar. It was said, Russia's steps to boost its presence suggest that the islands will continue to play a pernicious role in the future of Russo-Japanese relations and that Japan and the United States should deepen consultations regarding Russia's activities in the region. Japan's current national security strategy, which was adopted in 2013, stressed the requirement to promote cooperation with Russia at all forums and to expand Japanese-Russian relations in general. The two countries established a relationship after the Tokyo Declaration, which was signed upon the visit of President Boris Yeltsin to Japan in October 1993. Since then, Japan has been working on enhancing the relations between Japan and Russia, on political and economic forums, through a series of political dialogues. In October 2022, the Ukrainian parliament recognized the Kuril Islands as Japanese territory. Chairman of the Ukrainian parliament said Crimea is Ukraine, the Kuril Islands are Japan. The Ukrainian President Zelensky said that the Kuril Islands are under the Russian occupation and the world must liberate it as soon as possible. The decision on the Habamai and Shkotan Islands followed a debate in the Parliament of Ukraine, including through recent widely condemned referendums. A statement by Ukraine's parliament also called on the international community to take all possible measures to legally formalize the status of the islands, known in Japanese as the Northern Territories. Ruslan Stefanchuk, chairman of the Ukrainian parliament, said Crimea is Ukraine, the Kuril Islands are Japan. Territory stolen by Russia around the world must be returned. 287 Ukrainian deputies supported the resolution. Also, the parliament urged the international community to continue taking measures on the treaty status of the Northern Territories of Japan. When the war of Russia against Ukraine started in 2014, Japan was the only Asian country to have imposed sanctions on Russia. As a reaction to the large-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Japan introduced sanctions against Russia again. Several other Asian countries showed their solidarity this time and did it too. Moreover, Japan has been supporting Ukraine with humanitarian, financial aid, and military supplies. Such support of any country in conflict is not typical for Japan. Its anti-Russian stance refers to the Kuril Islands issue, as Japan officially claimed these Japanese territories to have been illegally occupied by Russia. In its turn, Russia refused to continue long-running negotiations on the issue. The Ukrainian President Zelensky said,
Ukraine confirmed its respect for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Japan, including its northern territories which are still under Russian occupation.
Today, I signed the relevant decree. There is a corresponding statement of the Parliament of Ukraine, and we call on everyone in the world to make similar decisions. Russia said it was withdrawing from negotiations with Japan aimed at signing a formal World War II peace treaty due to Tokyo's tough stance against Moscow's invasion of Ukraine. Japan reacted angrily after Russia withdrew from peace treaty talks with Japan and froze joint economic projects related to the disputed Kuril Islands because of sanctions imposed by Tokyo. The Russian Foreign Ministry said the Russian side, in the current conditions, does not intend to continue talks with Japan on the peace treaty. Russia and Japan have still not formally ended Second World War hostilities because of the standoff over islands just off Japan's northernmost island of Hokkaido. Russian officials said, in the light of the outspokenly unfriendly nature of Japan's unilateral restrictions on Russia over the situation in Ukraine, the following measures are to be taken. In the current situation, the Russian side has no intention of continuing peace treaty talks with Japan, for it is impossible to discuss the signing of a fundamental treaty in bilateral relations with a country that takes an outspokenly unfriendly stance and tries to cause harm to the interests of our country. After the beginning of the war, pallets loaded onto the Japanese Self-Defense Force cargo aircraft contained bulletproof vests, helmets, and other non-lethal military equipment much different from the shoulder-fired missiles, drones, and other weapons many Western countries have sent to Ukrainians fighting Russia's invasion. Japan's decision to ship military equipment to Ukraine still marked a major step for Tokyo, whose pacifist constitution has for decades kept the country out of foreign military conflicts. Japan's defense ministry tweeted that this kind of mission is the first case for us, but we will do our utmost to swiftly deliver the equipment to Ukraine. Although Japanese officials say they had no plans to send weapons to Ukraine, Japan has been on the front lines of a Western-led effort to pressure Russia using diplomatic and economic means. Japan has imposed sanctions on Russian oligarchs, frozen assets of Russian banks, and this war status revoked Russia's most favored nation trade status. It has also sent $100 million in emergency humanitarian aid to Ukraine and smoothed the path to accept Ukrainians fleeing the fighting. This is a notable move in a country long reluctant to accept overseas refugees. The moves not only underscore Japan's broader shift toward a more assertive foreign policy, but they also show Tokyo has become bolder in aligning with the West and standing up for principles that underpin the existing US-led international order. In the first days of the invasion, Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida acted quickly to frame the Ukraine crisis as a global issue. He said, "This is a very serious situation which doesn't just affect Europe, but also Asia and the whole world order." And the Japanese public seems to be in lockstep with his views. In a country typically more focused on domestic issues, the war is dominating news coverage. Thousands of anti-war protesters have taken to the streets of cities nationwide, and a recent poll shows that over 80% of the 1,063 people surveyed support Japan's economic sanctions against Russia. It is time to share your opinions. Can Russia attack Japan?